Hey guys, welcome to the part 2 of our Dart Frog series. If you missed part 1, we set up Dart Frog and built a basic API with auto reload. Watch this now if you are new. The link will be in the description below. Today we are leveling up. We are building our first real REST API, that is a full CRUD to-do endpoint. Basically create, read, update and delete for a to-do project, so it will be clean and production ready. All backends in pure data here. So we'll use dynamic route. We make use of UUID for ID. We'll do some validation and proper errors, and by the end you will have a testable API ready for your Flutter app in our next video. So make sure to watch to the very end, and if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like and drop an honest comment at the end of this video, and let's jump straight in. So the first thing is the planning and some best practices that we have to do here, how to plan. So quick one, we have to create a to-do model. Basically, when it in a to-do app now, we have to create a model to model what we are creating here. So the model will consist of ID, basically the ID of that to do, the title obviously, and also completed status, which will be a boolean, so completed that true or false. So we store them in memory map for fast lookup, key and value. So it will be perfect for learning and easy to upgrade to progress later on in the future. So the best practice, as I mentioned, dynamic route with ID. Each to do we have its own ID, so make use of this UUID package for unique IDs. We will validate with the JSON body and return. We are going to return correct status, 200, 201, 44 and the likes. So then the first thing now is I will open up. If you watch the first video, we created a project, a test project, and this is the project I'm going to be uploading into my GitHub, so you can have access to it at the end of this video. So check the description for the link to get the full source code here. So first thing, we'll be installing UUID package for ID generation. So I will just quickly install that. So to just install that, Control P or Command P or mark, then greater than our dependency UUID like this. Simple, straightforward. Yeah, so it has been added UUID. So to start our Dart Frog, I'll just run Dart Frog dev like this. Then to start the server, so we can go to this localhost 800. So let me just open this. So localhost 800, as you can see, if I go to the user route, we can see the list of users as well. So this is from our last project basically. So now we'll be creating the first thing we're creating is the model for our to-do app. So to do that now, I'll be creating a new file, a new folder. Inside this our project folder. So I'll click outside and create a new folder. I will call it lib. So inside lib, I will create a a source folder, or a screen folder rather. So src, sorry, it should be a folder, not file. So I'll create a new folder. So src like this. So inside this src we have our to do. So I'll just call it to-do.dat, or we can say to-do model.dat. So inside the to-do model now, we just create a simple model that we have the ID, the title and completed. So we just create a class, then to do. So inside a class, create our constructor like this. So first we need the ID, the title and the completed. So here it is. So we'll call it like this. Then where we need the following data also. So I'll just say final init ID, title and is completed. So after this now we need from JSON to get the JSON format for this. So we'll just use the factory. So factory to-do dot from JSON. So it will be in map format where we have the to-do. So basically the ID is the ID, which is an integer. No, let me change this to string. We don't want our ID to, since we are generating it, so it should be string instead, not integer. So our ID is string, our title is string, then our is completed is it's completed or completed, whichever one. The variable name is completed, so as false. So by default it will be false. So that's the data for that. So the next thing now is to JSON, so we can convert it to JSON later on in the video. So we'll just say map string dynamic, then to JSON, which is ID, then title, and is completed basically. So that is that about this model. So we are pretty much done. So basically we create a class, a to-do class like this, and we have the factory to convert it from JSON. So from JSON I will get the ID, the title, and it's completed, and we have the constructor here, which is to do, which required this ID, title, and completed, then for this and this. Yeah, so the reason why it's showing all this warning is because of this analysis option, the linked row. So I will just, the error basically saying missing documentation for a public member. So to do that, you can just put documentation comments, so which is 3/ like this, just to avoid the error. So I can say from JSON like this, you can just put that like that, just to avoid this. So let me say ID, let me say title, sorry, okay, let me say title, then it's completed like this. Then we can say for this one to JSON. Yeah, I think we're good to go for this. So the next thing now we'll be creating is a repository for this to do. That is where all the function is going to come from, the memory store basically. So I'll just create a new file inside this screen folder. So I'll call it to do underscore repository repository dot. So repository dot. So first thing, this is where we are going to be using the UUID. So just create a construct, then I can say UUID is equal to UUID like this. So it will import the UUID package, then also will be fetching the to do. So I can just say final to do should be equal to string then the to do model we created just now. So it should be like this. All right, so we can just import the file as well here. So import to do. So the next thing now is to fetch all the to do list basically. So just create a list, then we can say to do, and this is just to get all to do. So sorry, okay, so get all to do's like this. So we can just use single line function, then we can say to do to do's dot value, so dot value dot to list, so to list like this, then we are good to go. So sorry, this let me just change this to plural. So to do's. So basically what we are doing here is fetching all the to do's. So that's what this is. So also let's do the documentation. We can just say get all to do's like this. So the next thing is to get a particular to do. So we can get all to do, get a particular to do based on the ID that you submit. So I'll just say to do like this and get to do. So you can say get to do by ID or get to do. Let's just say get to do by ID. Then you can say string ID, then underscore the ID, that is the user must pass the ID, then we fetch from the to do based on the ID basically. So that's that. So let me give this a documentation. No, get it to do, okay, get it to do, just leave it like that. Okay, because to do is another, I can just say get it to do like that. Let's just leave it like that. So the next thing now is to create. So to create now, we'll be creating a function. We can just say create to do like this. So to create to do, the only thing we'll be needing from the user, from the front end, is just to pass title. So we auto generate the ID, and as well this completed by default is false. So we only need the title from the front end dev. So we can just say final, then ID because of the ID. So we'll fetch from UUID, and since we already created a constructor here which is UUID here, so I can just say UUID dot v4. So this one will generate a what's it called, base 64 code. So it will just generate a random ID for this particular to do. Does that. So I can now say underscore to do, id. So it's Todos, yeah, id is equal to to do. Then we have the id, which is id, then the title, which is title, and that's basically it. So we create a new to do with this. So to do id, then the model that we are passing, which is id, which is equal to id, the class that we just, the variable that we just created, and the title that the front end dev will be passing later on. So we can just create like this. Let's just leave it like that. So the next thing now is to update. So we have update, and the last thing will be delete. So update, now I can just say void. We'll be creating a function as well, which is update to do. So it will be string id. So basically, if the user wants to update a particular to do, we need the id of that to do the user wants to update. So all the values as well. So if the user wants to update the title as well, so this is where the user can update is completed as well. So it will be is completed like this. Then our curly bracket. So we can now check. We can just say to do is equal to the id. First off, to get that particular to do. So we'll fetch from the to do list. Then for that particular id, we just get the data for that particular to do. Then we can do all the validation we want to do here. So first thing, I will check if the to do is not empty, so or is not none. So if to do is equal to none, you can just return this. So it won't perform anything, to just return like that. Then we can also check the to do's id like this, and just say is equal to do. We are getting that particular to do, then we are updating the data. So we say to do, then we are saying the id should be equal to id, then the title should be equal to title. And if the title is empty, if the user did not update the title, the user only update is completed, then it should just get what is the current title basically. So we just say to do the title like this. So title, then it's completed as well. If completed, if the user update is completed or not, then we can just get is completed like that. So that is that. So it's completed, it's to do. So that's that. I hope you get that. So the next thing now is, okay, we can just create a documentation. Let's just say update. So the next thing now is to delete. So delete is pretty straightforward. It's just to delete an id. So we can just say delete to do. So we get the string of that, the id of that particular to do. Then we can now say underscore todos dot remove. So it will remove the id, basically to remove the to do of the id we just passed. So this is basically like all the functionality that will be doing the get. So this one is to get or to do, this one is to get a particular to do, this one is to create to do, and this is to update, and this is to delete. So that's pretty much for this our screen folder. So the next thing now, we are going to go to the route, and we are going to be creating a new route for this our to do. So I'll just call it to do. So I'll call it to do's. So to do's like this with x. So the first thing now, I'll create an index. So let me just say index.dat like this. So inside this index now, that's where we are going to be creating the post method, the get method, and also the other method that will be necessary. So as just like we did inside this our user index, where we call on request and we check the method if it gets post and the likes, and we perform some action. That's the same thing we're doing inside the to do index. So I'll just create a function, then I can say response, which is on request. So we'll be using switch method to check the method the user is, the front end is passing basically to perform the action. So we can say request context like this, and just say context. Then we'll be needing the async later. So let me just put it now. So as I said, we'll be using the switch method to get the method that the front end is passing, so as we can perform the function necessary, because we are doing more than one function. So it's just better instead of using what's it called, the if and else. Yeah, so the first now is to check the get method. So case HTTP method the get. So for the get, basically we are just fetching all the to-dos. So we just say to-dos is equal to get or to-dos, the function we created inside this repository here, which is get or to-dos. So that's what we are calling. Because I click enter, is already, it has imported the package here. So you can see to do repository here, it has been imported. So let me import our Dart frog as well, so we can have this error cleared away. So we have our get already here. So we just return it based on the request. So we can say return, then response.json. And to return it in a JSON format, so we'll say the body will be todos.map. So inside the map now, basically we want to return the list as JSON. So we can just say e to JSON like this, then to list, and we are good to go. Let me just put a closing bracket. Yeah, so that's that for our get method. So we are first of all fetching all the to do, then we are returning it in a JSON format here to the front-end dev, so it can be readable to the front-end dev. So that's for get. So the next thing now is for post, basically. So ATP method, then post, then we can now say final body should be wait. So this will just wait for the value that the front-end is passing, so we can get the data from the front-end dev. So JSON, so let's just cast this as map. So string, then dynamic, like this. So all right, so the next thing now is to get the title from the request. So get title, then we can say body. So what we are listening to is title, so we'll just listen to it as string like this. So a string, so we're listening to title. So once we listen to title, then we can update the data. But before we do that, we can just run some validation check to see if the title is truly passed or not. So we can just say if title is equal to none, title is equal to none, or title is empty, then we can throw some error here. So I can just say return response, then the status code will be 400. So 400 simply means an error. Then we can say the body title is required here. Let's just use title is required, simple as ABC, like that. So if this validation clears off now, I mean if this does not exist, then we can now create the to do. Remember that we are calling the function that we create inside the repository, the to-do repository. Basically that's where we have this create to do. So after that now, then we can return the response. We can just return response, then we can say status code. Sorry, did I get the spelling correct? No, so it should be response, then the status code like this should be 201. Then the body, so the body we can just say to do created like that, to do created, as simple as that. So that's that for post. So this is to create a new to do. So that's that for this index. We only want to get and post. So it's inside the ID, because we'll be creating a dynamic ID, a dynamic route basically for a particular to do, where the user can update the to do or fetch the to do or even delete the to do. So it won't be inside this general to do. We'll be creating a new file for the dynamic route. Yeah, so but before that, because of all this lint error now, I can just quickly adjust this. So for the case, you can see that we still have an error here, which is the type HTTP method is not exhaustively matched by the switch case. So we have to like just put the other method basically here. So let me just quickly do that. So we can just say HTTP method, we will not perform any function, we just put it as it is like this. So cast case, then ATP method, put patch. I think that's all. We still have one more. Is there still one more? Yeah. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So we still have two more basically. So let me just say add, then let me say options. So options like this. Yeah, so we are good to go. So you can see that the error has been cleared. So basically the only thing that we need is just the get. So this is like the general API. I mean the entry point where the user can just, when the front end can just, so anybody that is listening to the API can just fetch all the to do, then where they can create a new to do. Then inside the dynamic route, then we can add the put, where the user can update the to do, delete a particular to do, or get a particular to do. Yeah, so that's that for this index. So the next thing now is to create a new file inside this to do. So we create a new file. So for this file, the naming must be the same. So bracket id, opening brackets id like this, then dot that like that. So it should be like this. So inside it to do. So that is how it will be like. So the next thing now is we'll create on request function as well for this. So I'll just say future, then response basically. Then we can say on request, then the request context like this, then context, then let's just pass the, okay, I think we need the string as well. I mean the id of the to do as well. So we can just listen to that as well. Then yeah, so we are good to go for this. Then the next thing now is to create a get method. So the get is to get a particular to do. So we'll just say find out to do is equal to to do equal to get to do. So get to do by id. So this is the to do by id. So we have get the to do by id. So we can now check if to do is equal to none. So if it's equal to none, that is probably the id does not exist or something like that. Then we can say return response. So the status should be 4. So I mean does not exist. Basically just keep it simple like that. So once that validation is checked, then we can proceed to getting the to do or updating it basically. So now we can proceed to the switch method. So you can just say switch, then context.request method. Yeah, so the first thing is to get the id, I mean to get the particular to do. Yeah, so we can just say case ATP method.get, then we can return the response for that particular to do. So we can say response.json. So JSON the body, so it will be just to do the JSON like this, and we are good to go for the get. Then we can also create a new case for put. So put basically is to update. So we just say ATP method.put, put. Then we can now create the final body, which is to fetch the data. So you can just say body like this, then await. Sorry, it should be equal to await, then context.request. So this is just getting the data. So we're storing the data inside the body. So JSON, let's just mark it as map like this, just to keep it as map. Then we can now say final title. So if the user wants to update the title, so this is the title. So the title, this is the key for the title. So if you pass, let's say TIT, then it will be validation error. So then we can as well create for is completed as well. So it's completed. We know that this is the key from the model we created inside this to do model. These are the key ID, title, and is completed. If it does not match, then we are going to run into some error. So that's that. So after this, now we can now call the update to do function that we have inside our repository. So update to do, now we can now say ID, then the title should be title, then is completed should be is completed, the variable that we just have here. Yeah, so that is that for that. Then we can just return the response, then okay, should be response.json, JSON like this, then the body, then we can say get to do by ID to JSON, like this. So that's that. So after updating the to do, then we are just getting it by ID to save it as JSON file. So that's that. So the next thing is delete. So I think that's the last thing here. So we can just create a case, then we can just say API method dot delete. So delete is pretty straightforward. So we are just calling the delete, I think it's delete to do. So yeah, delete to do, then the ID like that, we are passing the ID, then that's, or then we can just return a response or the status code basically. So you can just say status code should be 204. Yeah, so there's a way that you can get the meaning of all the status code. You can just search on Google the status code meaning, so you can just get the list of all the status code and you can just use it promptly. So that's that for this. We are only using the get, the put to update, and the delete to delete a particular to do. So the next thing now is to just to put the other case, so we can clear this switch error. So you can just say case API method or post like this, and then we have patch and we have add and option where we can return a default value. So that's pretty much about it for our to do. So now we can test our endpoint basically. So our server, our server is running already. So if I go to this locals, we are currently on user. So if I go to do now, just go to Todos. Remember that frog is route based. So depending on the folder name, that's what the route also is. So for example, if I just write to do instead of Todos, it will say route not found. So let me just change it to Todos. As you can see, empty list, because we are yet to add a to do, so it's currently empty. So let me just open my Postman here, so I can just create a new to do. So to do that now, let me just copy the locals here. So locals, change it to post. So then inside the body, remember that it must be in JSON format. So raw, then change this to JSON. Then what we are expected to pass is title. So title, I can just say record a new video tomorrow. Like this. So just send. So you can see to do created. If I refresh this to do now, you see the list. You can see the ID. You can see the title is completed is false. Let me create like 3 more. Let me say post the new video tomorrow on Thursday. Post the new video on Thursday. Okay, let me send this. Okay, to do created. What should I say? Let me say write 2 articles this week. Yeah, so let me send that. So we have 3 to do. If I refresh, as you can see, the 3 to do's are here. So I can fetch for this to do for with the ID. So to do that now, let me just open a new tab. I'll copy this URL, then to do like this. As you can see, the to do. So I can copy this ID. So let me just copy for this ID. Let me slash the ID now. As you can see, this is for that particular to do. So we get the information for that to do. So I can update this to do now. So now I'll create a new let me just create a new Postman field. So let me just paste. Okay, let me copy this. Let me just copy the URL here, and then let me change this to put. Then let me change this title to raw, then JSON. Let me just say title again. Title was the title before. The title is record a new video tomorrow. Okay, so I will change it to record a new video on Wednesday, basically, to just see the update. So let me say record a new video on Wednesday. Let me say edit like this. So let me send. As you can see now, the update has been done. So if I refresh this, you can see the new update here. If I refresh the old list, you can see the new update here. So that is the put method. So I can delete as well. So to delete now, let me just copy this guy here, this right to new article. Let me just delete it. So okay, let me just do it here as well. So let me change this ID, paste the other ID, then we have to switch to delete. So delete. So let me send. So once I send, as you can see, we didn't return any response actually, but if I fetch the to do as well, as you can see, we only have 2. So that's pretty much about creating a CRUD operation with that frog and the REST API basically. So let me know what you think about this. Make sure you watch to the end. If you have any question, make sure you drop it in the comment section, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.